Welcome to the In Cobb We Trust podcast. And today I have the distinct pleasure of having my friend on the podcast, Mr. Matt Stigall from A Better Cobb.
How's it going? Glad to be here.
Well, we have been working alongside for the last, I don't even know how many months, as part of the campaign team for Sam Foster. But you have been doing a lot of work on the ground for a long time. And I wanted people to understand, what is A Better Cobb? How did it come to be? Your interest? I'll let you run with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite a journey so far. And I think in many ways we're just beginning. But a few years ago, I want to say it's about 2018 or so, I went to my first public meeting, first county meeting. And at that time, in my mind, I'm like, hey, I want to bring MARTA to Cobb County. Still one of my big dreams and goals and everything like that. But went there and just looked around and I realized not a lot of people here, really matched the people of Cobb County. It was a very specific demographic, a very specific energy.
Old white people?
Old white people being against everything possible. Yep. Just being against change, being against, whatever fears they had. And just looking around and being, this doesn't match what the people want. This doesn't match what I want. This doesn't match what a lot of other people that I've talked to really want. And so from that day to now, and our entire goal is really it's a one part education and one part kind of riling people up and getting people to know, who their elected officials are, who they can talk to, and really getting people more focused on what's happening around them locally, especially with as much as happening nationally and everything going on that can kind of really get you down. Locally is where you can kind of go to your elected officials, knock on their door, and more often than not, they listen. And so I started really realizing that. And the problem, though, is you get in and sometimes there's like these studies and these PDFs that are, I kid you not, 400 pages long. And so it's just, I can't get very opaque and esoteric and just, very boring and bland. But in general, I enjoy the process of going to a town hall and talking about a trail that might be built here, or going and seeing Smyrna had their downtown development meeting last week about the future of the downtown. And
which is exciting for me. I live not too far from there.
Yeah, no, and it's cool to kind of plant these seeds and be involved in these conversations that can impact our communities for decades and generations. And
so you go to public meeting, see that not all voices are represented, and then what happens? How does, what I really want to know, how does A Better Cobb come to be?
So I started doing a newsletter and just encouraging people and doing a preview of, the agenda and stuff like that. And people would see the newsletter, come join me at meetings. We'd sit there, go catch a coffee or a beer or whatever and sit there and talk all day about zoning or transit or bike lanes or whatever the case, or whatever the topic was. And one of those people, that we know very well was Sam Foster. And
how early was he on the journey?
Pretty, he saw the newsletter, I remember him going to his first Cobb Commission meeting and being so nervous about his first public comment and just sitting down and being like, look, just share your story. Because he saw just how combative it can be on some of these topics and how they get up there and some people just spew outright lies and they'll target somebody who had done public speaking before. And so he's like, what if I say something wrong? What if I'm like, look, just tell them your story. Go up there and do two things. One, thank them. They never get thanked, and so and just kind of plant that seed of I'm not here to tell you that you're doing your job wrong. I'm here because I want what you're talking about. And then two, share your story, which at that time it still is. He biked everywhere and he wanted safer bike routes and bike lanes. And, he wanted more infrastructure at the transit stops. And, and so he did that. And then 2 years later, he ran for mayor. So seeing all of that and seeing how that progressed and seeing that, just wondering how many more Sam Fosters are out there, right? As far as just people who have the courage. And honestly, yes, age was a big topic of the election, but when you speak to him for 5 minutes, he knows more about policy and ideas and his vision and, things that, I would put him up against anyone and he knows more about all of that.
Yeah, I tell people that, I teach doctors in training at the hospital, and I pushed him harder than I pushed the doctors that I train, and he rose to the occasion every time.
Yep.
But newsletter happens.
Yep.
You're getting a little bit more involvement, more people joining you, more interest. Then what happens?
Yeah. So I think this past year was really that transition from it being a Matt blog, a Matt passion project, a Matt, because you have the ebbs and flows, right? Like I'd get busy with someone else and then I went and do a newsletter for 3 months and then oh great, I got to basically start over. We did that transition from that to more of we have a board now and we launched our 501c4 and we've actually got a true membership sign up program and people can actually join. We just had our 100th member join last week. And so we're doing all of this still at the very beginning stages, but we're planting that seed to really truly build a collective, a community that can sit there and advocate for the things that we advocate for, which in general is a happier, healthier, friendlier Cobb County through better policies and public transit, affordable housing, and safer streets.
And it's bipartisan.
100%.
That's the thing that I also want to make sure that people understand is that it's not a Democrat or Republican thing. It is completely 100% policy focused. It is about making the places, especially where we live here in Cobb County, better for everyone.
Yep.
And full disclosure, I'm also a board member. So happy to be on the board and bring my own unique perspective working in hospitals and the healthcare system. And how does that really impact people? And I just wanted to tell the audience, one of my policy goals, being a Better Cobb member or a board member, is improving the state of elder care in Cobb County. I get to talk to people that have come from a variety of nursing homes in Cobb County, a variety of subacute rehabs, SARS, skilled nursing facilities. And I can tell you that not everyone is made the same. I can tell you that I would be more comfortable if serious reforms were put in place. And I think that is to the benefit of everyone because everyone has people that they love that for one reason or another, they can't take care of them in their own setting and rely on these facilities. And so I've been really grateful to join A Better Cobb and join a lot of policy nerds, actually. When you
take that as a compliment.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally a compliment because the one thing I really love too is it's data driven and data focused. And one of the first things that you showed me that I wanted to share with everyone is you guys did a study of how many parking lots are around Marietta Square. Can you share a little bit more information about that?
Yeah. So everyone who experiences the square goes away, and especially if you went there during a busy time, like, oh, the parking, to the point where parking actually becomes a detriment or a thing that people actually not come to the square for. And so now we're hearing all these solutions, like, do we build another parking garage?
No.
Do we do, right? And like we did a study where we actually inventoried all of the parking around the square and saw that more than half of the land of Marietta is already utilized for parking. And we have, I think it's like 3,500 around, it's more than 3,000 parking spots. And
within what radius?
I think it's half a mile or we'll put up the map on the video or whatever, that way everyone can see it. And but really it's a matter of people just not knowing where to go or where the parking is when they come here.
Yeah, poor signage, right?
Right, poor signage, and there's also just general poor policy when you have one parking lot that might be $10, but another parking lot that might be free, and this parking lot might have free for 2 hours, but then you get ticketed. And this parking lot's private, you'll get towed if you park there. So really that confusion of what people don't expect when they come to the square leads to what I call people doing the Marietta 500, where they just circle the square over and over.
I've totally done that. Yep. And also I want to make sure that we mention too, a complaint that we heard over and over again during the campaign was people who work in the square.
Yes.
That don't have parking and get tickets. And what really kind of irks me too is because tickets are not cheap. Tickets are not cheap and they affect everyone's bottom line. Some people are easier to absorb that cost than others. But if you're working in the square and you're working, a $15 job, a per hour job, or somewhere close to that, that parking ticket is a big part of your.
It's basically your entire day you're basically spending your entire day on the fee. Fine.
And that doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah,
we have so much parking around, but we don't utilize it. We have the garages. Can we strike a deal with Cobb County where we make that garage free for X amount of time?
So there's a number of solutions that we can do, right? The one solution that we feel is a better Cobb when looking at the data and looking at our current land use is let's not add more parking.
Right.
I mean, let's
utilize
figure out a way to better utilize what we've got. Being the pro transit nerd in the room, my suggestion would be that on the busy nights and during festivals and stuff is to do an actual shuttle around Marietta and have pickup points where we can utilize other parking lots that are nearby as well in other spaces. And then those businesses might also get a pickup in business because let's say we utilize the parking lot in front of Marietta Melt Yard. Well, then they could go in there, have lunch or whatever, get on the shuttle, take the shuttle then into the square.
And what did the Cumberland CID just announce? That as part of the Cumberland sweep, they've bought 6 autonomous buses.
6 million. No, it's going to be even more than that. It's 6 million that will then go into the autonomous.
Oh, sorry, 8.
Yeah.
I think there's 8 total, right? 8 total buses that for a 3-mile part of the Cumberland sweep to make it a shuttle that's autonomous, right?
Yep.
And so that doesn't require a bus driver, which means that they don't spend as much money on payroll.
I'm hoping that we actually, instead of spending on drivers, because right now in transit, we make the driver do so much more than drive. They have to do fare enforcement, security, dispatch. If somebody's not paying, basically customer service, if the box doesn't work, meanwhile, we also ask them to drive. And then, of course, the signaling to the public is don't text and drive. Don't do anything else other than drive. But meanwhile, we're asking our transit drivers to do all of these things. They get basically when they have bathroom breaks, they have to use public restrooms. We put so much pressure on the drivers that I don't look at autonomous as a replacement of drivers.
Interesting.
I look at autonomous as replacing the responsibility of driving and allowing the available labor then at that point to be more customer service focused.
Okay.
And being ambassadors or guides or whatever the case is. And then can you imagine what the experience of transit would be if you actually have somebody like that, you're looking for lunch, kind of like a concierge style. Right. Oh, here, go to these places and here's your discount.
People have questions, right?
Especially in a tourist area like Cumberland.
Even if, let's say, you're new and you don't know, or anybody would have questions. Oh, that's interesting. In my mind, it went to switching, but in your mind, you're saying you're going to allow the people that normally would drive the bus now to free up to do other things.
Yep. And maybe it's not 6. Maybe we have 8 buses. It's not 8 drivers. It's down to 5 or 6, and they're just around the system. But when I go to Europe, you have, they don't, you don't get tickets or any, there's not that ticket to enter. Right here, that's called dwell. When you get on a bus, they wait until you pay. Well, in Europe, you'll get on, the bus will go, and every once in a while, you'll have agents come on, check to see if everybody has a ticket, and then hop off.
Right.
And it makes everything just work so much smoother that we could easily implement here. We just choose not to. And it just makes the entire experience far worse. And
part of the evolution of Better Cobb now is trying to be more city focused.
Yes.
Right? We have a large county. We have different cities within that county, different needs. And so just this past week, I believe, we had 3 get-togethers.
Yep.
Right? One at Cafe Lucia and Smyrna.
Yep.
Another one was in Kennesaw.
At Bellotti Coffee.
And
then one at Mr. Tombstone's in Marietta. And then that's a part of us wanting to plant the seeds in the rest of Cobb. We want to get more local. We want to get everything's a local conversation driven. And that's how we grow. Because let's be honest, the person who lives in Smyrna might not care too much about what's happening in Ackworth or Powder Springs and vice versa. So we need to make sure that everyone has the resource and some tools to have those conversations and feel informed and equipped to then go to whatever meetings they are and speak up.
I've batted this idea around with different people, and even Sam, for example, but Atlanta Road is such an opportunity in my mind. Atlanta Road connects Marietta downtown, directly to Smyrna downtown.
Yep.
and then continues on further into the city, right? To South Cobb, and then you get either
Eventually all the way to downtown Atlanta.
right? And so let's just take a portion of that between Marietta and Smyrna. If you go down Atlanta Road, I mean, it's nothing right now. Like maybe back in the day, it used to be much more when there was I believe a streetcar. Was that at some point somewhere?
Yeah, the streetcar came all the way up to Marietta at one point. Yeah.
And, could mixed use developments go there? Could retail that's on the bottom with housing on top to address our housing affordability crisis by increasing supply to the point where the rents stabilize at some point, right? That's a dream of mine.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier being a doctor, and you work with seniors a lot. When you look at all the population projections of Cobb County, where the percentage of seniors in Cobb County is expected to double. So I believe it's something like 10, 11% right now. And over the course of the next 25 years or something, it's supposed to get up to about 20, 22%, I think. And so when we say healthier Cobb County and our happier, healthier, friendlier, in such a car dependent area, once seniors start to have that difficult conversation of the ability to drive, and healthier is not just car, I look at it, the suburbs are killing us in so many ways. We don't walk as much in the suburbs. We are more stressed in the suburbs. We don't have as much community in the suburbs. There's so many things about the suburbs that are kind of like killing our opportunity to thrive. And that's one thing that with A Better Cobb, and that's why as much of transit is a priority of mine, so is pocket parks. And every time we can build something that like people can walk to, and we have connected sidewalks and it's safe and all of that, that is just as much of a priority for me as it's transit.
So here, I have such a split mind about it, right? Because nothing you're saying is wrong about what you're saying is wrong about suburbs. And at the same time, it's not terrible to live in a subdivision if you have kids and you want to walk and all these things, but it keeps you so much further where you have to drive to other things. And we haven't come up with an infrastructure idea or solution that addresses that.
Yep. And unfortunately, when you look at the root of what created the suburbs, it was a lot of available land with a new technology, the automobile, with federal subsidies of highways and roads, with Brown versus Board of Education integrating schools, and you have people with money in the cities.
White flight.
The white flight, where they took their money they got all in their car, and they went and they bought an acre up in the suburbs for good schools and what have you. And that is the core of what created the suburbs and how we've developed our land and our communities for the last 60 years. And so with A Better Cobb, well, guess what? I just saw a headline in the MDJ where our parks director just sat there and said there's no more available land for us to build any new parks.
Yeah, he literally just did it. That was just today,
right now.
Believe,
yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yep.
And I think he was talking about there's I can't remember exactly, but there's no big parcels anymore.
Nope.
We're not going out and building new parks.
There's no land. Yeah, we have run out of land. So this whole suburban subdivision with 150 homes on an acre, we have run out of space to do that now. So now we've got to figure out a way, if we continue to want to grow, attract new generations to own homes, attract people to want to thrive in our communities. We've got to find a new way to
that's infill, right? By definition, if there's no new land to build in the county, you have to fill in what you have, right? And that was a big part of the campaign. And I remember Sam talking to me about, actually you brought the data of value per acre in Marietta, and talking about how Emerson Overlook, a mixed-use facility of law offices on the bottom and condos on top, was the most valuable building per acre, even when you compare it to the largest employer, the hospital. But the hospital is huge, brings in a ton of money.
But the hospital is not taxable because it's owned by the hospital authority. And so That land's actually not taxable. And that's the biggest issue with Marietta, is that so much of the land is churches, government, and cemeteries that, Marietta only has so much land
to generate a tax digest.
Yep. That they can have be productive and create resources. And everyone sets taxes, but really it's resources that can then be used by the city to then provide good public services to its people.
And so by that, just following that logic then, that if you have only so much land to work with that's going to generate tax revenue, then if you are trying to make sure the city stays solvent with ever increasing pressures on the cost side, to stay ahead of that, you must be forward thinking. You must be thinking of how do we make the most out of our land? And that was a large part of the campaign.
And when you have ordinances and requirements in downtown, such as no housing downtown, height requirements, literally I was actually walking around Marietta the other day, and if the value per acre map kind of shows it. But if you actually looked at like levels of productivity, most of Marietta is just one story of retail, nothing built above it. And when and then if you look at other downtowns or other areas, other cities that have become successful, they allow their land to be more productive. It's a basic math game.
And it comes with supply demand, right? Yep. Like if you can provide more supply of commercial space, that can help keep a cap on rent, which is a huge factor in a business's bottom line other than payroll, right? Like, I don't think a lot of people put everything together. And I think like A Better Cobb has a unique opportunity, especially because it is bipartisan.
And that's why we're part of a national group called Strong Towns, and we're a local conversation of strong towns. And I love how they frame it, local conversation, because I get to as local of a conversation as meeting random people at a bar or a coffee shop and talking about it. And so when you look at a lot of A Better Cobb's membership and how we've grown, it's from years of just, I'll overhear a conversation of like, oh yeah, man, I really wish Marta came up here. Oh, what did you say? And then we go into it, and then it would go from there. Like somebody would talk about zoning, and I'd be like, I heard you say like Z104, or and so just doing that is really, just wearing the shirt, fun public transit. I went and got a, bowl at Bulgogi in the food market, and they're like, I love your shirt. And there's a 10-minute conversation about A Better Cobb, and they looked us up, and I think they added us. So, I mean, it's just being out there, having those conversations, letting people know, and then informing them, hey, do you live in the city or not? Right. And, who is your commissioner? Who is your representative? What do they do? What is up on the upcoming agenda? Oh, there's the Noonday Creek Trail. Make sure you write an email to them saying you want this route, so there's always something going on. And it's
you
a
can
matter of being a part
influence
of it.
people. Like, I think that's the key. And I remember talking to Rural Roman. She's like, yeah, I listen to all my voicemails. I was like, say, what? Like, you listen to them? Like, there is so much power at the local level of simply taking the time to, one, understand who is your elected representative, but then reaching out to them. Like, you can get a fair amount done.
Yeah. And one of the things I've learned in this is, I didn't see a lot of things about my city, my community, when I was driving around. I'm talking to myself like 10 years ago. And then once I was very intentional with looking at the transit experience, the pedestrian experience, the biker experience, the somebody who might not be as have the same abilities as you or I, their experience as they try to get around. Seeing those hardships that they face and hearing their stories, you have two types of elected officials, I think. One listens to those stories and listens to those perspectives, even if they aren't showing up, and knows that they have to make decisions that support and help them and help them live a comfortable life. And then you have, maybe some elected officials that are only listening to either the people who are showing up or the people who fund them or the people who, the way we're building our county and our community for the future, we really need to look at the people who might not have the ability to show up as much as they are today. And that's the core of A Better Cobb, and making sure that people see those perspectives.
Let me transition, because we brought up public transit. You knew I was going to go there. MSPOST.
Yep.
Epic fail.
Oh yeah.
epic fail. Why?
I think there wasn't a fit between what it was offering and what people want. And so, and I mean, again, when I go into all the numbers and everything, in 2022, on the Democratic primary, we ran 2 questions. One was, do you want MARTA? The other one was, are you supportive of a 1% 30-year sales tax? 80% of Democratic primary voters said they want MARTA. But then we sit there and we do an MSPLOS in 2024, and it gets completely trounced from like 66 to 33.
Yeah, it was like 2 to 1.
Something like, yeah. And everyone's like, oh, why? Like, it means they don't want transit. No, people will vote for something that they want. Let's give them what they want. And I think that people saw the plan, saw that it was, and I am the biggest proponent of buses out there, but the voters don't know what a good bus system is yet, right?
Yeah, they haven't experienced it.
They don't know. I could sit there and be like, oh, Columbia does this, or oh, like, look at what Indy's done. It's such a hard communication. You would need so many resources to get that word out of there. Like, oh, bus rapid transit, something you've never ridden before and never seen, is going to be successful and is what you will want to ride. Like, that's an impossible sell. And so it's got to have someone that people know, people will work, people will use, and they know that it will work for them when they vote yes on a new tax for them to put resources into.
And I think Sam said this, is that he's down. He's a proponent of incremental change.
Yep. So that we went for the home run last year,
and it was not.
And we need to go for singles and doubles.
Right. Just kind of. Sometimes you got to bunt too, right? Like
when we go for the home run, like actually put up the cleanup hitter, which would be MARTA, that people know, instead of a prospect that nobody's heard of.
Right.
And I mean, Sam and I have gone back with that analogy. Like, we
hit into the double play, right?
it was a triple play.
We got smoked. Yeah, and I think, people might look at that and see failure. I see opportunities to learn. I think the voters told us what they want and what they don't want. Yep. And we should listen. It's not like we should put a square peg into a round hole and just say, do it. No. Okay. If a 30-year plan doesn't work, okay, well, how can we make incremental steps toward change? What do they want? I would actually love to see MARTA, specifically for the reason of, I would like to get to the airport and get home from the airport without either having to ask my wife with 3 kids to pick me up,
or pay $120 on Uber,
or just have the freedom to get to the airport, right? And so, City Council, if any of you take the time to listen to this, what about a airport shuttle from the square? Ding, 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 just putting that out there.
So as you mentioned that, in one of the McLaughlin, who's actually a conservative pollster, did a whole poll and study of Cobb and transit and what people want. And 4 of the top 5 routes was Smyrna to the airport, Marietta to the airport, Kennesaw to the airport, and I don't know, one other city to the airport. I forget which one it was. And those were the 4 most popular routes. And it showed, but the problem with that is you can't really have like 4 or 5 different routes to the airport, because then the costs are getting higher. But, and again, like, I don't know if we want to get too into the transit plans in Stigall, but I would like a direct connection into like the South Cobb area that then serves all of Cobb County, like an express route. You go to the south, basically near the other hospital, right? East-West Connector, Austell Road, and have that. That's where they're planning to build the South Cobb Transit Center. And that could be easily where, and then
because you're on that side of town, so you're not going down the connector into all that traffic noise.
Yep. Like, it's a straight line. So you get people to there, you funnel people to there, and then it's a straight line. Then you could have Smyrna connected there, Marietta connected, whatever the case is, or you could be dropped off there instead.
Yeah, and if you can make that commute, ideally less than an hour.
Yep.
Right. That would serve a lot of people, because then you're like, okay, I'm not worried about getting home at 4:50 p.m. and then asking somebody to come get me down there. I mean, like, I had to pick up my mom from the airport on Friday at
the construction right now.
It was not fun. Like, I packed my patience, and I'm glad I did, but like, it took me an hour and some change to get from Marietta all the way down to the airport, and then we had to like go back on traffic. It was
Even you could just pick them up at Cumberland, right? Like, so Marta to Cumberland.
I mean, that's a straight shot too. On off hours from Cumberland to the airport, it's 23 minutes. Yeah. So, okay, let's turn our attention to what took up so much of our attention the last several months. I had fun. I had fun. I think I would have rather win.
It was the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like as far as putting so much energy and effort into something that could change, like literally be the
we really could have changed, like, I mean, it could have been historical in nature, right? And I really enjoyed our team. I really thought that we had not a once in a lifetime, but once in a generation candidate when it comes to local. And, we came within 89 or 87 votes. And one can look at that and say, still a loss.
I know.
And I know you do. I know I do.
But if I hear one more person with that initial reaction of, you counted like a win though, right?
No, let's be honest, man. Like, there's W's and there's L's, and we took the L. However, that is not to say that there weren't certain positives that came out of it. And I'm wondering, and I'm not asked you this, but what lessons have you drawn personally from the whole race?
Well, number one, I think you and I are the same. We're the day after, we're like, all right, we're back in it, right? I think some others are like, I need a break or whatever, but we right away we're talking about 2029 or we were right back
down
into
for
it.
long.
So there's that part of it. We'll have that was my first experience being that involved in a campaign. So that will always be my first time. The lessons learned was we know more than we think. Like, I mean, that was the coolest part of it is like, and I still remember like the one person on our team who had done a lot of campaigns, we were running out of money. This is back in like September, right? And, we were
I remember that conversation.
Running out of money in 2 weeks. It was going to get to zero. And then 2 weeks later, he's like, what the heck did you guys do? Like, what the, and then
we went into fundraising overdrive, right?
No, we completely crushed it. And then 3 weeks before the end, he's like, guys, I am literally running out of places to put these resources. And then I remember asking him, like, have you ever had a campaign where this has happened? He's like, no, this is weird. Like, I have no idea. So just seeing that was because of even if not all of us were natural fundraisers, I'm the one who like hates asking for money. I think that was a running joke, but our social media team crushed it. Our, canvassing, we had the right scripts, like every single thing coalesced around where if somebody showed that they wanted to support, we brought them into the campaign, whether it was as a donor, a volunteer, just a host.
I feel like we got better over time.
Oh, 100%. Like, yeah, if we could have 2 more weeks, it was just one more week.
It's amazing how much we learned. But we lost by 89 votes. And you are our data guy.
Let's take us back to that first day here, right? Where we laid out the playbook. I showed the maps, showed what happened in 2021, brought in the 2024 data. And I think that was the first time we looked at the numbers and was like, this is doable.
Yeah, we can win this.
Yeah, this is doable. And we laid out like, these are the words. We have to do turnout games. This is the word that we're going to lose in. This is the word that, it's more of a persuasion word. We set out that map and we left there like, yeah, this is doable. We got to find a candidate.
Kamala Harris won.
Yeah.
Marietta, 60-40.
Yep. So that's kind of the in 2021, the challenger to Tumlin lost. Basically, Tumlin got 58%. Michelle Cooper Kelly got 42%. Lost by about 1,200 votes. So then we saw, though, that Harris won Marietta 60-40. And there was about 12,000 Harris voters that did not vote in the local election. And so if we could target those voters and target people who vote nationally but don't vote locally, we had a chance. And we had a win number that we crushed. If only the win number was a little bit higher,
right?
So I mean, the way I look at it, no matter what slice, no matter what, we get like an A-. Like we were that that close, and we did everything so well. We lost by 89, but we actually closed the gap by 1,150 votes.
14 points. Right?
Yeah.
And okay. So part of something I do, I know you do, is ask why.
Yep.
Because we had support from Lisa Campbell. We had support from Gabe Sanchez. We had support from Dante Carter over in Sandy Springs in a fight of his own. We had support from Lisa Cupid, which was a coup, in my opinion. We had support from Craig Owens, our sheriff. Mm-hmm. We had support from Eric Allen, our county commissioner. We even had support from the Cobb County Democratic Committee. We had support of the Democratic Party of Georgia. And despite all that Democratic support,
we had what I call slippage. And so when we look at the playbook, when we look at what we needed to do, turnout, we crushed all of our turnout goals. I mean, just absolutely crushed them. You could look at the wards that we were focused in: 1, 3B, 5A, 6B, and 7. And our turnout in those wards was 150% more than the turnout in 2021. Whereas in the other wards, there's about 70% more. We doubled the turnout in the wards we wanted to do the turnout. We checked that box. We knew that there would be some slippage. If you look at basically the baseline, and by the way, slippage is where we can match up vote totals and precincts with Sam's totals, and then match that up to PSC. And on the ballot,
Public Service Commission.
Yeah, the Public Service Commission. And there was two of those candidates. Those were actually partisan. So it was D versus R. People show up to the polls, and 9 times out of 10, 95% of the time, people vote party lines. And so we can kind of see, okay, how many Democrats are in that ward, that precinct. And slippage is where we take that PSC level and then see how many votes went for, in this case, the incumbent. That I next to a name in local politics is always a huge driver.
Yeah.
Huge driver. And so we look at that. We had about 8% slippage as a baseline in wards that you could define as Old Marietta. These are the ones where people they're white, upper middle class at least. They own a home. All of that. We had double the slippage in those wards and those precincts that we did in the rest of Marietta.
And that represented how many votes?
About 300 votes. 300 votes lost. And after the total margin was 89.
So it's fair, in your opinion, then, to draw the conclusion that had we not had that level of slippage in the areas specifically, and I'm going to name the wards here, 2A, 3, and 4, we could have won.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that those wards are represented at the state house level by a person named Mary Frances Williams. And I know you're going to stay silent here, which is fine by me, but she didn't endorse us. And whatever reasons that were given, at the end of the day, this is a team sport, and we need all players on the team to participate. And if all these people, all the way up to Charlie Bailey of the Democratic Party of Georgia, coming out for a canvass with Sam, the first morning canvass, the Saturday before the election, indicating how much support he was giving us as a Democrat, we couldn't get our own elected Democrat to get on board.
And let's take a step back also and look at just what this mayoral race meant for this city. Right. I mean, you have an affordability crisis that, if you look at all the messages we were getting, anytime we talked about that, people were telling us their story about working multiple jobs, trying to put food on the plate, being displaced from the actual mayor and being kicked out of their house, all of these things. And we had a chance to...
And vetoing Juneteenth.
Yeah, so many things that, and calling some, one group that was actually trying to improve downtown. The worst thing that happened to Marietta and Sherman. I mean, like threatening a 501c3 organization or their nonprofit status. I mean, like we have a list, right? And we had a historic opportunity to bring in this new vision, a true vision of a Marietta for everyone, giving a voice to people who've never had a voice before. And you saw that in the response that we got. I've never seen a politician so loved in my life. And this was somebody who nobody knew about.
Everywhere he would go.
Gosh.
I mean, this guy would go into an ice cream shop and the people would start clapping.
It bothered him. Like, I mean, he's like, I can't go anywhere. Like, I'm like, you're the candidate.
Yeah. And, you know, we've gotten into, and I always like our conversations because we bring different viewpoints to the table, and we'll sit there and listen to each other and try to understand where every single person's coming from. You know, I view this as a unique time. I view our national politics with grave concern. I am someone who believes in the Constitution, that also has a functioning nervous system between my two ears that can deduce how severe the situation has gotten. And it also trickles down to the state level. I mean, we've seen ICE raids in Georgia now. Mm-hmm. I believe one was in not too far from here. And given that kind of political milieu, I make this argument that we need everyone to be together on the team and fight as one. I don't think that's unreasonable. And what we see from Mary Frances Williams, because we took a look at her record, mm-hmm. that in this past year, she's abstained more than any other member of the Cobb delegation by far.
Yep.
She's abstained 22 times.
And we also compared her votes, and it's basically like shows the same pattern as a moderate Republican.
So what bothers me is that for many people, she will present herself as a progressive. And that is like calling Donald Trump a conservative. You know, it's not a true reflection of reality. And just because you've been there, just because you have a D by your name, that doesn't mean that you are fighting on behalf of all people in your ward. And I think that this pattern of abstention was on display with not coming out and supporting Sam Foster. And, you know, I think people will take issue because I was part of the campaign team, but I speak for myself. You know, I'm not speaking for anyone else. I'm certainly not speaking for Sam Foster. That he has a mind of his own, he has a mouth of his own, and he is somebody that I respect a great amount. And I just don't think that we as a country and a nation have the best chance to be successful if we don't have people who are going to play ball
and fight. Right? Like, we need fighters.
Yeah, like we need people that are willing to not always play nice. And you know the bothersome thing too that we found out is that she has a ridiculously high rate of actually being present and just abstaining.
And abstaining is a conscious choice of not voting yes or no. Like, I don't even like. I would love to ask. Why? Well,
and one of the votes was on the foster child tax credit.
Yep.
Right? Like, that gives people, the families and institutions and governments that help with foster children more money. And everybody else voted yes. Every other Democrat voted yes. And she abstains.
And there was another one it was like a student loan refund, rebate, something like that, you know, again, and that's where it's like, be for or against it. Let us see. Like, I don't know. It to me, when I saw how many more instances, and like, again, there's a difference between absent and abstaining. Absent means like you're not there. Something happened, whatever the case.
That life happens,
Yes.
right? We can all get
That's
on
one
board
thing.
with that.
But to be there and literally like raise your hand and be like, I abstain. I mean, is there a conflict of interest there? Is there a
Well, that's a great question.
I would
Is somebody
love to know
donating to your campaign that's telling you not to, or are you just a do nothing Democrat? And I think she's a do nothing Democrat, and I've talked to a lot of people. I was a District 2 chair for the Cobb County Democrats, right? Like, it's not that I'm some person that doesn't know things. I was in the fight in 2024, trying to help flip school board, making sure we're competing for all these seats. And nary did I ever see Mary Frances Williams. And she's a do nothing Democrat. Will come around like every election and be like, hey, vote for me. But what have you done for me? Like, how are you representing true progressivism? You're not. And that's okay. Like, just say it then. Like, don't pretend to be something you're not. That's what really bothers me. And the other thing too is that all these people are not being represented at the state level when you abstain. That doesn't make any sense. And to sit here and say, full disclosure, like, I'm a outspoken person.
I don't think you need to disclose.
Known to speak my mind, and I ruffled some feathers. With my latest post. Number one, I don't take back anything I said. Number two, people are upset that we're asking questions and ascribing a certain amount of responsibility for Sam's loss to Mary Frances Williams because of her abstention. So I don't see what's wrong with that.
And at a minimum, it's, I think, worthy of a conversation. And so for people to sit there and get upset at you for speaking out and, in essence, pointing a finger, like, there needs to be a conversation of why. There needs to be a conversation of what could have happened if she did speak up and support him, and why that didn't happen. And
you could have been the first Black mayor of Marietta.
Yes, and it
would have been historic.
And we could be talking about, like, there's so many things we'd be talking about what Marietta could be in the future, that we're going to be stuck for the next 4 years. But I digress.
And so I feel like the left needs to have a fight. I think the left needs to fight it out. And if people are saying, like, well, we should be kumbaya and we should not argue with one another, we should be united, I'm like, excuse me. Where was that unity when Sam Foster was on the ballot? Where was it? So you want me to sit there and clap my hands for you and support you when you're not willing to do the same for me? That's not how this works. No. That is not how this works.
And the whole thing of it was nonpartisan, or the whole thing of, we don't want to play in these.
Give me a break.
100%. And that's what we saw in the more slippage, is because once it gets to more local, people start saying, like, oh, well, I grew up with them, or, oh, my family knows their family, or things like that. And it's like, no, just look at what's going to happen on paper over the next 4 years with one candidate or the other candidate, where they're going to show up and vote, hopefully not abstain, and what they're going to do to make their community better and the people who are struggling the most in their community, right? You're either protecting the people who already own homes and already have made theirs, or you're protecting the people who are struggling to put food on their plate. Struggling because there's a van that might pick them up with people who don't have a badge or identification or a mask covering their face. Like, who are you going to stand up and fight for? And I think we really need to start asking those questions. And if people are, shy away or only want to talk about it in a closed room, or doesn't want their opinion known, well, then if you don't want your opinion known, the people, and this is what I love, right? People don't talk politics. Right? Oh, don't talk politics at work. Don't talk politics, whatever. And then we wonder why here we are in 2025 with authoritarianism growing, fascism growing, and all these things happen. It's because we've grown up in a society where we're supposed to not talk politics. And now we all know all of those friends who, when we want to talk and be like, oh, well, who did you vote for? Oh, like what, all that. Like, I don't really talk politics. Well, if you don't want to talk politics, we know who damn well you voted for.
Yes. And let me also say this, because I may be in a more unique position to comment on this just because of my profession, that I take care of dying people. A lot of those people are old. I take care of a lot of old people. And Mary Frances Williams, not young. And I wonder, it's a question, and it's a fair question.
They brought up with Sam.
Everybody commented on Sam's age.
Everybody.
Right? Everybody and their mom. And I did too, initially. It's not to say that it wasn't a fair criticism, but if we're a concern, but if we're going to apply that to a young candidate, well, you best motherfucking be sure that I'm going to apply that to an old candidate. And it's a fair question to ask, does Mary Frances Williams' age play into her role of being not present, of being a do-nothing Democrat, of not having the energy to fight? And if we're in the minority, which we are,
we need fighters.
We need fighters.
Yeah.
And so I'm really glad that we've had this conversation, because people get upset with my use of profanity. And, to them, I say, fuck you.
I feel like I brought you down a bit, though. I do feel like, we fed off of each other well here.
But, I'm from Jersey originally, right? Like, you can take the boy out of Jersey. You can't take the Jersey out of the boy. But we're so concerned with the language, but we miss the points. Did anyone sit there and ask Mary Frances Williams, why didn't you vote for Sam Foster? Did anyone sit there and ask David Wilkerson, how come the Cobb delegation didn't put their full support behind Sam Foster? Are we a team or not? And I'm willing to play ball. I'm willing to fight it out in the primary and then coalesce for the general. I will play ball. But to sit there and ask me, I think one person asked me to apologize. You're not fucking getting it. Number two, what was I thinking? I think a lot, actually. Surprise. It may be a surprise for you people. But we need this fight. And there has to be a price to pay for not playing team ball. There has to be.
So for me, it's not as much team. It's as much fighting for the people who need to be fought for. And that to me is, if you say you're a progressive, if you say you're doing, these things, you got to show it. And I don't think that the anger. What was the post 2 days before Election Day about turkeys?
Oh, well, yeah. Bring it up. Bring up the clip. No, that's okay. And it was about chickens.
Yeah. Chickens.
So let me get this straight. You post not a damn thing about the most exciting and the most consequential mayoral race, not just in Cobb County, not just in Georgia, in the entire South.
Yeah.
This was the most exciting race. Mm-hmm. And you didn't say anything, but you love chickens. Well, no wonder you must love Tumlin. But it is, I think it's indicative that the time for new leadership has come. The time for Democrats, people say that Democrats have a terrible reputation nationally, and probably even at the state level to some extent. It's because we have people like that don't fight, that don't concern themselves with the least of us.
When I was canvassing, and you door knock, and they open the door, and you always kind of you don't know where to take the conversation when they open that door, right?
Yeah.
And so
but it's fun.
Times, well, no, it's a fun little game, right? Yeah. And so many times when somebody older answered the door, and I'd be like, yeah, I know you got to look at his age. And I would try to oh no, I love that he's young. And right then I'm like, I like you. I wish I could party. Like,
So
you know,
many
like,
people said that.
So there are people out there. This isn't just a generation versus generation type thing. There are people like across all generations and demographics that sit there and say, yes, we need younger people. Yes, we need more minorities. Yes, we need more people that aren't lawyers and realtors and the bougie class, whatever you want to call it. We need more workforce people.
Bourgeoisie.
But we need more people that represents the people. And yeah, and so I saw that a lot with door knocking, because that was just one of those things where, like, there's no algorithm.
Yeah.
There's no, I mean, of course, if you're in a certain neighborhood or whatever, like, things like that. But like, literally, once you start knocking on every door and you start having those conversations.
I knocked on 1,300 doors.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and some people took issue with the fact that I was going after moderate Democrats, like I was attacking them. My issue is not if you want to have, let's say a fiscally conservative profile or wishes and combine that with socially liberal policies. I'm perfectly fine with that. Like, I'm a high earner. Like, I get it. I own businesses. I have run businesses. I own real estate. I develop real estate. So numbers are as much of my part of my ethos, my thinking, as anybody else. And at the same time, though, I'm talking about the moderate Democrat who doesn't want to fight. I'm talking about the moderate that MLK talks about in a letter from Birmingham.
You know what bothers me is the number of doors that we knocked, and we had somebody that probably told to our face that, oh yeah, we love Sam, we're going to vote for Sam, and then went to the ballot box and didn't. And I know in my head that there's at least a few, and I know, like, you're like, and like that, to me, how can you be so cowardly? I don't know.
A little bit of Cheetah's rubbing up, I'm out here.
Did not put faith in Sam, who had this vision for Marietta that would have actually helped all of Marietta, except a little, instead of just one little part of Marietta where, everyone so far has benefited from.
And the crazy thing too is, like, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. Like, when you're sitting on Church Street stuck in traffic trying to get down to the Loop and trying to get to Whitlock, or trying to get east-west on Whitlock, or trying to get north-south on Powder Springs or Atlanta Road, like, that's the issues that we were talking about.
Or housing affordability. The number of times I would canvass and they'd be like, oh yeah, somebody 33 is, like, likely Dem in the house, and then you door knock and it's their parents answering it. And I would sit there and be like, yeah, like, housing affordability is, it's impacting future generations. Like, you just tell, like, it was not going to work. But yeah, no, like, that is the biggest issue of we are facing right now is it's basically cost of living.
And it's an economics issue. It's about the money.
Supply and demand. Like, we could just boil it down to that, and it's more complex, but that's really what it is. And we've gone decades of restricting supply of starter homes. And then now we wonder why there's a whole generation living with their parents.
And, let me just kind of point this out, because I was at the last Marietta City Council meeting, and Trayton is trying to build, what was it, like 70 something homes off this parcel of land on, like, however many acres. And the issue, people, got upset and didn't want it because of some issues about the road, about issues about density. And I don't think people really understand or really digest the idea that the price of a home is inversely proportional to density, right? The more density you have, the less the home will have to cost for the developer. And I know these numbers because I do this. You are trying, as a developer, because you're motivated by money. Let's be real, right?
Yep.
Like, there's no sugarcoating that, right? Like, you're motivated by the desire to make money.
You have to make a ROI.
You have to make a profit, right?
The bank requires you to.
And so when you buy dirt, which is not cheap, about in Marietta, around this area, it's about $1 million an acre. Okay. So right off the bat, like however many acres, however many $1 million that it takes to buy this, and then you have to put in first it's land acquisition, then it's horizontal, and then you're vertical, right? And if you cannot get more density, then me as a developer are going to need to charge a higher price per home to get the same return on investment. That's just numbers.
And the people who already have their home sees that as a threat to their property values.
Yes.
But by you building cheaper homes, it does not lower property values for the already built. It just stops the mushrooming,
cost.
Sure, if we want to have housing prices skyrocket, then sure, we cut supply. I mean, this is basic economics 101, right? Exactly. Cut the supply, and then you see the demand increase, and then that's when the prices skyrocket, which is what's happened here in the last 15 years, basically since the financial crisis of 2008, but then even more so since 2020. So many of my friends, because I graduated college in 08, were able to buy their like starter home in 08 during that. And then now they're like, oh yeah, like I've got like my fourth property. And I just want to be like, congratulations, but anyways, that's a little, but yeah, no, but it's timing, it's basic economics. It comes down to basic math.
And it's relatively elastic, right? Like the demand for homes is not, the price matters. The price matters, the numbers matter, interest rates matter. And I just want people to really fully appreciate that before they go and rail on it. And I'm not saying like everyone has a right to their opinion. Yes, there's nothing that's perfect. Let's start with that assumption. Whenever you do something, whenever you change something, there are going to be people that are not going to be happy. That it's just the nature of the world that we live in. And you try to make it so that the people who, where's the biggest benefit? Is the benefit to the overall community, to society, to develop this piece of land, of which we've already gone over, we don't have any more of, that we need to increase the value of our land to be able to provide services and to be able to get tax revenue to provide services? Yes, we need to increase density.
And this is where if you walk along Franklin Road and meet people on Franklin Road right now, there's two mindsets of what we think the future of the city should be. My mindset is I want those people to find a way to live here permanently, buy a house, have their kids come through school, be a part of the community permanently. I think that's when we say Marietta for everyone. I think it's, people might only be able to afford rent right now, but eventually they can buy a starter home, plant their flag, build their family. Like
mobility on the socioeconomic ladder.
There's another part of Marietta, and unfortunately they won by 89 votes, who sat there and see in Marietta that there's a barrier, right? Yeah. There's a barrier. You have to make so much money, or, maybe Marietta isn't for everyone. They can, like if they need affordable housing, they can go live in Rome.
It's so let them eat cake.
Yeah.
Marie Antoinette energy.
I've got mine.
Fuck you.
And you have, and my problem is you have so many Democrats that when you look at the numbers have the same mindset.
But so one of the things that I learned from the campaign, other than it's really fun to work with a like-minded group of people who are smart, who are intelligent, who are self-starters, who work ridiculously hard, and we all coalesce around an ideology of trying to make this place better. Mm-hmm. But another thing that I learned is there are a bunch of people that we got off the couch. There are people that we motivated.
Not just to vote, but to share their story, to do
we had a group of people go to last city council meeting with Sam, right? We have been able to get the interest of so many people who have been disaffected by politics, that haven't paid attention, that are like, oh wait, we have a candidate that's young, that looks like us, that is energetic, that he speaks the language, that he's trying to address the issues that are affecting us personally. And I feel like we had such a refreshing campaign that there was no good reason to not support us.
So
if you're a Democrat,
I think a lot of us, when we first started, we're like, yeah, we have a chance. We saw the numbers, but it's going to be tough, right?
Yeah.
The one day I realized, like the first time I realized there's something different, was when I was at Marietta Square and I overheard like Sam's like qualified video. And like, you know,
Wait,
it was
really?
like it was a bartender showing like somebody else, like, hey, check this out. I'm at another table and I hear it. And I'm like, hey, are you watching Sam's video? And they're like, yeah. He's announcing around for mayor. And of course, I'm like, why, do you know him? And of course, I was like, yeah,
just a little bit.
Yeah. I literally that night at our table, it was like the entire bar staff were coming up and asking questions about sidewalks, bikes, the parking, the housing, like all of that. And I was like, this is weird. This is different. This is, you know, people are seeing somebody here that, one, they see themselves, you know, two, they see hope. And so much locally, people don't think they have a voice. They don't think they have a chance. I just live where I live and I'm running and I'm barely scraping by and there's nothing I can do, right? But this was a chance. Somebody was speaking to them in a way that was like, oh, like he moved here to go to KSU. I'm right now in they saw themselves in him.
He's so hopeful.
Yeah. Yep. And that's what I think really captured a lot of the hope, the inspiration, the love. Like I said, I've never seen somebody like a politician where like the messages we got when we announced that, you know, we didn't have a path to victory. I mean, people were like, I was up all night crying. Like, you know, like, I mean, they poured their heart, soul, tears into this. And honestly, I think most people didn't really give them a chance to win, even our supporters. Mm-hmm. And we are all disappointed because I think our expectations changed.
Yeah.
Right. Like we went in that election day, think we won, and it was disappointing, no doubt. The number of people who are pretty well connected, they're like, oh, I didn't think it'd be close. And I'm like, yeah, I've been telling you for months, but even then it didn't matter. And that, to me, I think with how close it was, is in essence a victory, because now people will have the hope that just 89 votes. Yes. And you know, we're going to every volunteer, every donor, every supporter, everybody. It's like 89. Remember 89, because we will get over that 89 vote barrier for the next one. I know it.
You know, we were so close, right? So close. But I hope that people look at Sam's campaign and, I mean, nobody gave us a shot, right? But they look at it and they're like, wow, look at what a young, inspirational, policy forward, non-vitriolic. I mean, we attacked, but that's politics, right? Like, I mean,
we put things on the table.
Yeah, listen, they were real. Like, you know, Tumlin vetoing Juneteenth, real, not unfair. Tumlin,
the Franklin Road, his number one thing that he was bragging about Franklin Road, about the bond, and about kicking hundreds of people out. And yeah, we put that on the table and we're like, well, actually, and this is the real impact you had.
And, you know, I made the case, I gave the mayor a nickname, Mumlin, Bumlin, Tumlin, because if you ever hear him speak, you know, you could sense like, listen, this guy is not as sharp as he used to be. And that's not a knock on anybody. Like, that's old age, right? Like, I see it all the time. But we ran other than our attacks, which were, I think, fair. I don't think they were underhanded.
Then the campaign actually made the attacks. We didn't get a PAC to go and do
that's where I was going to go, actually.
You know, so
we didn't get how many?
$20,000.
$20,000. Who gave that?
It was the Cobb Fund.
And who supplied the Cobb Fund with that money?
It's likely a local law firm that's heavily involved in school board politics also.
Interesting. And And also,
well, Marietta Strong was the start of it. Then that was what was funded by the Cobb Fund. And
we were not led by special interest.
Nope.
We accepted what was our PAC money that we got? We got from Jane Fonda.
3,000.
Climate change.
Who basically sits there and supports candidates who support climate change. How dare us?
Yeah,
How dare we?
Like, oh my gosh, like so terrible. And you know the other thing too was these assholes came after Sam and said he was soft on crime. I mean, that was like the biggest race baiting whistle. It was such a bullhorn. And I'm like, you want to sit here and take us to town for that, but you had not an untoward word to say about Tumlin and his camp about that shit about a black dude. Like, fuck off.
And then they put his photo with Zoran and Bernie with the hammer and sickle. And then
baby.
And then they darkened the color of his skin in the photo. And then they're going to sit there and be like, oh, don't bring this up, or oh, don't do that.
And like, no, this is politics. The shit that bothers me is that our opponent does that. You don't say anything to them. You don't make a fuss about that. But I come on and take one of our own to task, actually two of our own to task, because they didn't support our candidacy. They were not part of the team. And somehow I'm the bad guy? Like,
where their emails to the things that are actually happening?
I would love to see it. And so, you know, I hope that this campaign inspired people. I know it did. People told me, so many people told me. I mean, like, I was random people from Paulding County, people from across the country were vested in this race. They're like, we were up late saying, I mean, people that I work with in the hospital be like, man, I was so close. Like, so many people come up to us. Then yes, of course we're going to run again. Sam does not know that, but we're going to run again. Because I think he's so, I mean, I got to give it to him. Like, we pushed him so hard. That he's earned a break. But
he hasn't even had a break.
He honestly, he hasn't a break. I told him that he can rest between Thanksgiving and the New Year.
Yeah, right. And then come the day after Thanksgiving, we'll be asking him to do something.
Today that he came out and supported Rural Roman's campaign. Yep. And that's kind of where I was going, in the sense that Georgia's ready for change. We've proved with this campaign that a young candidate that may not look like what you would traditionally think they would look like, that is born to fight, that is policy driven, that is enthusiastic, that is inspirational, that is hopeful, that speaks to the commonalities that address all of us and not just the well-connected and the wealthy, of which I am the well-connected and wealthy, okay? Let's be freaking honest. But I deal with people in the hospital that are destitute, that are homeless, that are making it, that can't come to the bedside because their dying loved one, because they're working, that I have to write excuse notes for them to get off of work, that are living in squalid conditions, that are living out of motels. I mean, everyone dies, right? And so I hear their stories, and because I am in the profession of taking care of the dying, I take the time to listen, and I hear the pain and the struggle of our common men. And that's what we're fighting for. And if you think that criticism of a do-nothing Democrat is somehow offensive to you, that tells me a lot about you.
And like I said, when you have issues of people really struggling to put stuff on their plate, put a roof over their family's head, and we've got people that are being abducted by people in mass in unmarked cars and without badge identification, and people are upset that you use certain language. I don't know. I try to really hone my skills in understanding where everyone's coming from, right? Like, that was part of when I was talking about, like, when I used to drive everywhere. Now I see how people get around, you know, the struggles that people have. I really struggle to see how somebody can be so upset on a, let's just be honest, argument. Like, just a conversation, or like
and they're like, I regret my vote for Sam. I'm like, why? What did he do? He didn't do anything. I'm talking here.
Yeah. But they're trying to silence you.
Yes.
And that's exactly what it is.
I mean, you saw fucking John Ward in the Marietta Daily Journal trying to come after my employment because I made a reference to the Battle of Kennesaw Mountain during the election night when emotions were high. I don't take it back at all. It's the truth. That this is a battle for the soul of our country, that Joe Biden referenced, it is a battle against white supremacy and fascism, because that's what the Republican Party represents these days. And that's not, I don't want it to be that way. It is what it is. But I can't sit there and pretend to give these people credence in the sense that their opinion is just that. It's their opinion. They're allowed to have it.
Yeah.
Be my guest. But I'm also allowed to have my opinion. And I can share it. And if people want to create their own podcast and talk about it and have credibility, it's a free country still.
I think that's great. I think we need more. What was my reaction when I first heard it? We need more Dr. Parenchatis. We need more people stepping up and speaking and bringing people to the table to share their views, to put it out there. That's right now. I think you're carrying a little bit of the load and a little bit of the weight of that, because you're the only one doing it in a way. And so we need more people that are able to step up and share their voice and speak to it. And
last point I would make before I ask you my final question. The right is so full of snowflakes that an untoward word causes people to fall out of their chair and just go ballistic and try to go after someone's employment. And it's so funny that the same people that supported a certain someone that was a big proponent of free speech, that they don't really want free speech. They just want what they can say, whatever. But if you say something that I don't like, you're canceled.
You remember when Trump started as a candidate? God, this is almost 10 years ago now. And everyone's like, oh, well, he tells it like it is. Remember that?
And I'm the one inciting your hateful rhetoric? Get the fuck out of here. Give me a fucking break, right? The palliative care hospice doctor is the hateful one. Get the fuck out.
He's the one trying to control everything.
It's hilarious how these people lose their mind. So Matt, I really want to make this a regular thing, because I think, one, I enjoy talking to you because we have such fun disagreements sometimes, right? And coming from different points of view, but so much in common. But really, ABC is just at the beginning. A Better Cobb is focused on really doing the policy work, really doing the data analysis to be able to present it to our elected officials, to move the table, to educate the public on different things that they just don't think about, right? I get it. If you have kids or if you're working, just that, or just trying to survive, people have time. Okay, let's be real. Some people have time, they blow it on stupid shit. But a lot of people don't have time or don't have the mental space. Let's put it that way. It's the mental
just don't
space.
know how or where or when and so just knowing, that they do have a voice and where they can use that voice. What I have realized, when we had that housing rally back in, it was, I believe, late July, we had 25 people show up. And of the 25 people that showed up, 18 of them were right out of high school.
Right.
And I wish I had video of the elected officials on the dais, and they're like, what is happening?
Yeah, right. Because they never see that many people. And A Better Cobb educates. A Better Cobb is a facilitator of people being like, okay, well, I don't really know how to do this. Let me ask a question and then we'll help you get connected, right? Really serving as a liaison almost. And so last question though. We've talked a lot, covered a lot of topics, but something I ask everyone in the hospital. What brings meaning into your life? What makes life worth living for you?
So for me, I have an 8-year-old, and he's having memories now. As I go back, a lot of my memories started when I was 5, 6, 7, 8, something like that. Mm-hmm. And I want him to know, in this world that is increasingly digital, increasingly isolating, increasingly, dystopian in many ways, that there's something, it literally, and, AI is this. And we're talking about driverless cars, and we're going to have, I was at the Georgia Tech game yesterday, and there's robot delivery things everywhere. And this world is we're losing our humanity in this world. And if you look from day one, things that draw me to it, like soccer, public transit, all of that are things that bring people together. And so, right now he plays baseball, he's got school friends, all of that. But when I look at communities, I look at diverse communities, I look at resilient communities, things that just bring people together naturally. And when we have communities that are like, everyone just goes in their car to and from work and don't know their neighbor and, build a fence around their home and like intentionally try to not know their neighbors, like it's not resilient in any way. And so I read a book, Palaces for the People, that changed my entire worldview.
What was it?
Palaces for the People by Eric Kleinenberg.
Palaces for the People.
Palaces. It's about how we build like social infrastructure to really like drive community.
Okay.
And I mean, it obviously inspired me, but it also kind of ruined my life because now everywhere I go, it's like, oh, they did this wrong. They did that wrong. Why are we doing it this way? But I don't know how much longer I've got on this beautiful blue planet. But if I can build communities here and there and sprinkle, like I started the petition to bring Major League Soccer. That was kind of more of a hobby, but I started realizing then that like I had this.
Yeah, I don't think people know that you're the reason why Atlanta United is off Franklin Road.
It's always like the last thing that's always talked about. But yeah, like we started the petition to bring the Atlanta soccer team here, and it was successful. So yeah,
well, I think especially in today's day and age when everyone feels so divided and it feels so terrible, honestly. Like my neighbors are of different political persuasions, but that didn't stop me and my wife, especially my elderly neighbors who are Republican, that are Trump supporters actually, but it didn't stop me and my wife from making sure that we helped them get the COVID vaccine when it came out. Mm-hmm. It doesn't ever really come up ever in the hospital when I'm taking care of people. Politics is not something that I ask. It doesn't matter who you voted for if you didn't vote when you're in front of me. You're a human being. And it's my job to, number one, do no harm. That's the first job of any physician. But ultimately, it's to listen to people, to ask questions, to understand their point of view. And none of that is political.
Nope.
And I feel like, yes, this podcast is sometimes inflammatory, intentionally so, but there's a duality there. It's almost schizophrenic in the sense that I'm trying to fight in a way that people understand to try to get to a place where we're much more peaceful and together. And we don't have to fight all the time. If y'all would put down your knives, I'll put down mine. Yeah. I don't have no problem putting down my knife. Actually, it's much better. It's so much energy to fight all the time. And at the same time, sometimes you need to fight it out.
So I think that begs the question. I mean, your last video or whatever, you're very pointed. Mm-hmm. I think you need to send an invite to certain people to ask questions of why they don't support.
That's a great idea. Mary Frances Williams, I am happy to have you sit in that chair and we can have a very cordial, respectful conversation, but I'll ask you some pointed questions. And the same thing goes for David Wilkerson. Anybody that I call out on this podcast, you have an open invite to come sit here and talk. And I don't yell at people. I don't have to. It's very a low-key conversation, but I do ask pointed questions. And some of them might include, why do you abstain so much? Some of it might include, why are you the person that votes least with the Cobb delegation Democrats? Why do you vote or abstain on Republican bills when you should vote no? Why do you claim to be a Cobb progressive? Why did you not support Sam Foster given everything that we discussed? I'm giving you a preview to those questions, and I'm happy to listen to your response and ask follow-ups. And again, this is still a free enough, I guess, country. You can have your opinion, but you should have the guts to share it like I have the guts to share it. Matt Stigall, founding member of A Better Cobb, fellow warrior, fellow father of a boy. I have 3 boys. You have 1 boy. But I think, the fun thing is that we come from our initial political journeys started differently.
Very.
I think you were more right. I was more left. I have moderated and come a little bit more, even though it doesn't feel like it, right? I think the Overton window shifted, really. I stayed pretty much the same. But you also drifted.
I grew up very conservative, and then I grew this character trait called empathy. And then
and so
I've become more.
We will explore that in future meetings where we can discuss more policy proposals for A Better Cobb, talk about different projects, because I think this is what it's all about. In Cobb We Trust is about your money.